You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for you. Browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Monday, 25th day of September, 2017. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you spent some quality time with your family. I saw you in church yesterday, and that chili cook-off was off the hook. Big day, really big day, all over the world. I have a chart up of the S&P 500 Emini Futures. If you care to see said chart, go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side, click the big microphone. Follow the instructions. You will be registered through the end of the month. First day of October, you must register again. That's how that works. The other option, go to our YouTube channel where we stream the show live each and every day. youtube.com/CFRN. And when the show is live, you just throw in another /live, and there you have it. So from either place, you can see the live charts as we make our way through the show each and every day. And whichever door you come through, you have access to the chat box, which means you have access to our global audience. If you have something you want to share, want to talk about, get off your chest, a gripe, a win, we're here for you, and we'll help you share it with the world. All right? Let's take a look at the numbers. You can see, those of you who are logged in, you can see the chart. In 30 minutes, we dropped from 24.99, give or take. Actually, the high of that 30-minute candle is exactly 24.99, and the low is exactly 24.90. If you will recall, last week on Tuesday, and I think it was actually Wednesday, heading into the Fed announcement. You know what? We'll give it Tuesday afternoon. We can look at it later in the show. We had an 8-point range on the entire week. That's how quiet that was. And I actually mentioned that once upon a time we would see ranges of that magnitude in an hourly candle. And here we were 2 days into the week, and that's all we had to show for it. Well, there's no finer example than this. And then it continued in the next half hour. In fact, these are 30-minute candles. Can we make them hourly? Yes, with the click of a mouse. Boom. Now, because this is a global or a Globex chart, our candles start at the top of the hour. If you're from the world of equities and you trade the Wall Street day session, then your candles start on the half hour, okay? Hourly candles. So, on this hourly candle, we still go from 99 down to 90. That's quite interesting. The 30-minute candle and the hourly candle are basically the same. Let's take a look. Let's go back to 30 minutes. Yeah. Well, actually, okay. So the hourly candle, it embraces this 30-minute candle, but the majority of what happened was in this 30-minute candle. And I wouldn't be surprised that the majority of it happened in the final 10 minutes. Let's take a look. Let's just see about that. Alright, so that's 10. That candle goes from 10:20 to 10:30. 10:30 to 10:40. 10:50 to 11 o'clock. I don't guess we can really make that argument for this particular scenario, but often the final 10 minutes of an hourly candle, Globex style, you will see the majority of the action for that hour in those final 10 minutes. True story. We've been watching that for years. Does that really mean anything? I don't know. The really interesting part of the story here is the fact that for 2 days last week, that was the entire weekly range. Okay. And now it's just Monday, midday, and we've got a high on the week of 25.04.5 and a low on the week down at 24.85. So, alright, I said we would take a look at the numbers, and look at the numbers we shall. as the market continues to decline. These are last week's weekly trading zones. Partners received this week's zones this morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, as they do each and every Monday. Right here was the Globex Open last night, 6 p.m. Eastern. Ran up, spiked the zone from last week, 0203, back down to 95.96, a little hop, and if you here follow my horizontal line across, and for those of you that have always wondered, what's this head and shoulder stuff that people talk about? There you got a head, and there are your shoulders. We don't talk about those a lot because that's not part of the trading style that we embrace. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it at all. It's just not part of the rule set that we use each day in the live training room. Okay? But once the neckline was broken, it did what the textbook says it's supposed to do, and that's continue dropping. Now, according to the textbook, it will drop from basically there up to there. And if we bring that down here, it has done so far exactly that. From the neck to the top of the head, from the neckline, boom. Are these self-fulfilling prophecies? You think? Could be. More than one person read that textbook. All right, here come the numbers. You ready? In the U.S., these are the cash markets. The Dow is down 103 points. NASDAQ is down 80 points. Now that's the Dow's down almost 0.5%. The NASDAQ is down 1.25%. S&P 500 is down 12.5 points, which is 0.5%. And the Russell 2000 is down 3 points. In the commodity basket, crude oil is up $1. That's almost 2%. Trading 51.63 last. And gold is up $10.90 today. That's almost 1%. Trading 13.08 last. In the Asian markets, the Nikkei up 101 points. That's 0.5%. Shanghai closed the session down 11.5 points, and the Hang Seng at the end of the session was down 380 points. That's a little over 1.25%. Last but not least, the markets in Europe were mixed. A lot of news out of there today. Angela Merkel has won the election for the 4th time. This will be her 4th term. But the percentage of votes that she garnered were not exactly what she was hoping for. The FTSE closed the session. It was actually pretty quiet trading, surprisingly enough. The FTSE down 10 points, a little over 9. DAX down, or up 2.5, and the CAC was down 14. No movers, no shakers. Pretty quiet, all said. Our hearts and our prayers go out to John McCain. The doctors have given him a very poor prognosis, in his terms, for they've already operated, and they say there's not much else they can do. He said he's been thinking a lot of Senator Kennedy, who also had brain cancer, and over the weekend my brother-in-law passed from brain cancer. And John McCain said that he remembers Senator Kennedy. Even though he was diagnosed and he knew what was coming, he continued to work. He believed in what he did, and he worked right up until the very end, as long as he could. And apparently, Senator McCain wants to do his very best to do the same thing. So, again, our hearts and prayers go out to him and to his family. In the news today, there's a lot. We won't start out with Anthony Weiner, but we will mention that before the show is over today. What we will start out with before we go to Michael is North Korea's foreign minister has called President Donald Trump's comments at the UN General Assembly a clear declaration of war that would lead the country to trying to shoot down U.S. strategic bombers, even if they're not in North Korea's airspace. Now, this report is out from the BBC. North Korea Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho spoke with reporters in New York saying the whole world should clearly remember it was the U.S. who first declared war on our country. Since the United States declared war on our country, we will have every right to make countermeasures, including the right to shoot down United States strategic bombers, even when they are not inside the airspace border of our country. Guys, it looks like we're going to war, and nobody wants that, but I don't know if we can avoid it. The North Korean statement referred to Trump telling the UN that if the U.S. is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Probably not the best choice of words, but he was trying to get a point across, and apparently he did. Trump said in the same speech that Kim Jong-un, North Korea's leader, was a rocket man who was on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. Trump thinks that he would bring North Korea, a nuclear power, to its knees through nuclear war threat. It is a big miscalculation and ignorance, according to North Korea. Trump and Kim have been locked in a war of words since Trump threatened to respond to further North Korean provocations with fire and fury in mid-August. Trump also specifically threatened Ri on Twitter, suggesting he won't be around much longer if he continues on a path of escalation with the U.S. However, the U.S. and North Korea are still technically at war, as the 1953 conflict ended in a ceasefire. It's unclear what the North Koreans mean by saying Trump declared war anew. Additionally, the B-1B bomber recently flown off North Korea's coast by the U.S. Air Force is a supersonic aircraft, and it's unclear if North Korea has any capacity to down such an advanced jet. North Korea has also recently threatened to fire a salvo of missiles at Guam, a U.S. territory in the Pacific, and to fire a nuclear-tipped missile into the Pacific Ocean. Both threats, so far, thankfully, have gone unfilled. So, that's the news that I think we really should be focused on and concerned about because, well, this guy, there's no telling what he's going to do next. Let's go to Michael, get a recap of everything that transpired today in the live training room. Michael, if you're ready.
Okay, I am ready. Let me bring that over. This and that. Okay.
Okie doke. I can see your chart, so I'll hit mute on my end.
Okay, great. And I will begin. Let me get out the question box here. Yeah, Stephen wrote he's looking for any excuse to start something. I just looked something up 7 hours ago. There was a picture posted online, clearly doctored, of North Korean missiles hitting a bomber and North Korean missiles hitting a U.S. ship. So, the rhetoric continues. Is there an ICS trade setting up? Let's just go and look at that part. There is an ICS trade setting up. It looks like. All right. Now, if you have not taken a free trial of us, go to the home page at cfrn.net. And up at the top where it says sign up for a CFRN live training room, 100% free trial, user indicators, learn our strategy, click here. When you click there, you will be brought to this page where you just have to put in your email, your first name, and how you found us. Then hit the submit button. Once you hit the submit button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click the confirmation link, you will not get a free trial. Let's see. The recap. Here it is. All right, we had a green day today, just barely, but it is what it is. Okay, if you're gonna read the spreadsheet, you read all the CFTC risk disclosure stuff down at the bottom. Yeah, it's got blue on the cycle, it's got blue on the MA1, so there's the highest probabilities are going to be when you have red on the cycle and you have red on the MA1, and you get a bounce. Okay, so this morning we lost 4 ticks on the euro, made 7 ticks on the Russell, and made 2 ticks in crude. All right, and that ended up just being $30. Gross. Today took 25 minutes in one trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $100 a contract, and we took a total of 10 trades. So right now, the month is really slow, really slow. We're at 1390 over 16 days, averaging 86 a day. On the year now, 26,252. That's over 180 days, averaging 145 per day. Okay. So let's just go over what transpired today. Now in here, there were a bunch of momentum trades, but they were all going right into the high of the day. So that's why we left that alone. Okay. We started out here with a break even, and then there with another break even, and there with another break even. And let's see what happened during the break. During the break, it was really choppy in here, it looks like. And this is the high of the day, so all of these opportunities would have been going into the high of the day. It pulled back here and it drew the cycle down too far. And right in here, it looks like it's starting to set up a short opportunity, but there's nothing there just now. Okay. Now the euro. Started out missing this one right here on the euro. Then we took this and stopped out, minus 8 ticks. We got 4 ticks back here and a break even there. Looks like we missed one there. And during the break, we would have been looking for a higher swing in here. Okay. Once it finally got up there and gave a higher swing, then... Oh, well, this wasn't trying to break. This was right at the end of the room. There was a momentum long trade here that went 4 ticks into profit, then came back down. So that would have been a break even had we gotten it. There was a shorting opportunity there that we missed, and then it got really choppy here during the break. Would have been a shorting opportunity right here. That probably, it might have gotten you this leg, but it probably would have been a break even. and then nothing else. Okay. On crude now, we had right in here, we had our first long opportunity. That's where we got the goal for the day. We got 10 ticks on this first one. Then we stopped out over here, -8 ticks, put us back down to +2. We missed one there and there and here as well, but I think it was going into the high of the day right here, so we didn't do anything with that. Changed directions during the break, and it looks like there was a shorting opportunity right there for that leg down, and that's it on the crude. Okay, now the Russell, some of the guys in the room, they were on this first opportunity here on the Russell, which was right over here, right there, okay, at 9:31, and they got their goal for the day in the first couple of minutes there. I missed it. Okay, and then the ES was going into a zone too, so that's probably why nothing is marked in here. Way over here, I had a shorting opportunity, and it was 7 ticks on that. And then the Russell and the ES were both tanking right here. But the ES had gone down to the zone below it, so there was no shorting that we could do in here. Then it started to bounce up, and we had a break-even long opportunity right there. And let's see, turn to break. I don't see much else happening here. It's a little bit of a pullback right there. Okay, now the ES started out inside, well, right at a zone here. All right, so there was no going long on any of the indexes. And then, Trump's comments about North Korea tanked it right here. Okay, there was an opportunity to get short right there. Put that in your goal for the day on that one. Turned around, and during the break came back up above the zone here, right at the break really, and it came back down into it, and now it's just dropped back down to it. Not a whole lot you can do there on the ES today. You had this one opportunity here, and probably if you were watching it, you could have shorted in here, right here, with that little leg down. Okay, and that's it. That's all we had. All right. So on gold right now, 1311.8 down to 1311.4 would be a shorting opportunity. And if the MA1 were to stay red, that would be a pretty high probability one, but I don't think it's going to. Okay. So with that, let's bring the spreadsheet back out. Here we go. Okay. So today is the 25th day of September, and we lost 4 ticks in the euro. We made 7 ticks in the Russell and 2 ticks in crude. Okay. Today it took us 25 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day, and we took a total of 10 opportunities. On the month now, 1390 over 16 days, averaging 86 per day. And on the year, 26,252 over 180 days, averaging 145 per day. Okay. All right. If you have not taken a free trial with us, go to our homepage here at cfrn.net, and up here at the top where it says sign up for the CFRN live training room, 100% free trial, user indicators, learn our strategy. Click here. If you click there, then you will be brought to this page where you just have to put in your email, your first name, and how you found us. Hit the submit button, and you're all set. Okay. Then you'll be sent a confirmation link. Just click on that. Then we'll send you all the information you need to get into the room. Okay. And that is that this morning. With that, I can pass it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, Studio A overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. And all this blockchain stuff that I've been checking out. That's pay bills, bitcoins and altcoins. Coin mama. Alright. Dwayne must still be going to get his coffee. So, see what I meant about that change in color? Not the highest probability trade. Change its color like that. If you were to look at this from this perspective.
Were you already looking for me?
Yeah, I was.
Go ahead with what you're doing.
What's that?
I said go ahead with whatever you were showing.
Oh, okay. I was just looking at, we had a double top right here of the MA1, and then price failed off of it. Now it's put in a lower swing on the MA1, and we have bearish divergence down here. So that's just what I was looking at. But I was also looking at how to pay bills with Bitcoin and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
I was spend and pay bills with Bitcoin and altcoins.
You can do it all. You can do it all. In fact, I was trying to make sure the YouTube chat room is up and running, and it is. Chat box is open. Okay. Recap of the recap.
Today it took 25 minutes and one trade to get to the goal for the day.
Well, that's a nice way to start the week.
Yes.
Any unanswered questions in the old chat box?
No, there are not. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. No, thank you. All right. Boy, oh boy. Let me see where. Bitcoin's back up over, speaking of, over $3,900 today. And of course, they've always got to blame it on something. So they're blaming it on the fact that a company based in Hong Kong has launched an ICO despite China's ban on the whole thing. Macau gaming company Dragon Corp is hoping to raise $500 million, B as in boy, dollars through the ICO to integrate blockchain technology into the gambling market. Chinese authorities have launched a wide-scale crackdown on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency trading in recent weeks, but Dragon's ICO won't be affected because the tokens will be issued in Hong Kong. The digital transactions also mean authorities will be able to track illegal outflows through the casinos. Projects built on blockchain technology use ICOs to raise funds and issue tokens to investors. But scams and speculative investments have prompted a response from regulators. The Financial Conduct Authority in Britain recently issued a warning to investors over ICOs. Dragon Corp and We Holdings plan to develop a debit card or social wallet that holds the digital currency so players can withdraw fiat currency from an ATM. Tokens issued from the ICO would be used by VIP junket operators, middlemen, who offer credit on behalf of the casino operators. The CEO of We Holdings, it's a Thai-based company, told CNBC that the money raised from the sale of digital tokens would also go towards the construction of the Dragon Pearl Casino Hotel. A floating structure is being built in Norway and is set to arrive in Macau by 2019. He said, basically, we provide liquidity via our own exchange and also major exchanges in the world for the digital currency. So that token will be listed on multiple exchanges. You can have a digital exchange in Hong Kong or in Thailand or elsewhere, and yes, you can cash out. Now, probably some of the most interesting news today, and we'll go current prices. Yeah,
I think I still have the charts.
Still got the charts. Okay, I'll grab them here in just a second.
Okay.
Bitcoin trading at 3943.77, and Ethereum trading today currently 295.88. Now, let me go to this interesting little article about Mr. Jamie Dimon, who we all will recall came out last week, and somehow I lost the article. Hang on a minute. I want to give it to you verbatim, just the way I got it this morning. Here, I'll grab the charts.
Okay.
There we go. Okay. Now, I got this through Telegram, and I shut Telegram down, and that's why I don't have it in front of me anymore. Now I've got to I gotta find that doggone thing again. God, is this it? You know, they're too big to fail, so they might have taken it down. No, I don't think they did. I think I haven't found it yet. Let me go to all of my regular sources here, and I will find that, because it's front page news, but honestly, it does. I don't like to be a conspiracy theorist, but here we go. I got it. I had it tabbed way over here. Alright. So, Jamie comes out. Gosh, has it been 2 weeks already? Time flies. It really does. And made a public statement that, in his words, Bitcoin was a fraud. And then John McAfee came on CNBC and told Jamie Dimon, no, you're a fraud. And it was quite interesting to watch. They weren't on at the same time. But as we all know, just recently, Bitcoin dipped when JP Morgan, executive head of the bank, Ma Barker, called Bitcoin a fraud and claiming he would fire any of his employees from his firm who traded the digital currency for being stupid. Now those were his words. And I spoke about this on a number of occasions. I said, it appears that he is taking this personal. Now, JP Morgan is a financial institution that has paid more billions of dollars in fines for being caught up in fraudulent activities than I believe all the other financial institutions in the history of the world combined. If you go take a look at the record, I mean, it's just for them a cost of doing business. You know, the sandwich makers got to order some more cheese and some more salami. Jamie got to pay some more fines. Cost of doing business. Okay, so he makes this public statement. Now, word comes out that JP Morgan has been caught red-handed purchasing a bunch of XBT shares, otherwise known as exchange-traded notes that track the price of Bitcoin. So I kept saying he reminds me of Ackerman, who said he was going to single-handedly, personally take Herbalife to zero. And I remember, you know, with my previous co-host discussing the fact that he seems to be taking this personally. He doesn't seem to be approaching it in a level-headed manner, the way a guy would act and behave who is responsible for managing hundreds of millions or billions. I think it's a $1 billion fund, $1 billion plus that he manages. He's not behaving rationally. Okay. I picked up that same thing in Diamond's statement. Somehow, he seems to be taking this thing personally. According to public records of Nordnet trading logs, the two associated firms, JP Morgan Securities Limited and Morgan Stanley, bought roughly 3 million euro. Now, and I realize in the grand scheme of things, 3 million, you know, it's not a big deal to Jamie Dimon. That's his walking around money. But nonetheless, he said anyone who worked for him or his firm, if they traded in Bitcoin, that they would be fired for being stupid. So that's 3 million euro worth of stupid. Interestingly, after the recent regulatory crackdown in China and the statements from JP Morgan's senior executive Jamie Dimon talking trash about Bitcoin, his firm bought the dip on September 15th. In fact, out of all the companies on the list, like Goldman Sachs and Barclays, the JP Morgan team of buyers purchased the most XBT notes of any of them. Now, Goldman Sachs, as we talked about on the show probably a month ago, Goldman Sachs said that Bitcoin would go to 5,000 and then it would have a 50% retracement or close, and then it would move back up. They choreographed that thing pretty doggone good. You gotta hand it to Goldman Sachs. They really do run the show. Now, these notes that were bought, XBT, they are exchanged traded notes. They are a popular investment vehicle for mainstream investors and financial management firms who want exposure to Bitcoin but are just kind of confused by it all. A few institutions offer ETNs, among them Denmark-based Saxo Bank, which sells notes called the Bitcoin Tracker. These Bitcoin-based ETNs track Bitcoin price movements against the euro and the US dollar. Bitcoin ETNs have done extremely well over the course of 2017, following suit with Bitcoin's meteoric price spike. Also, now, this is where it gets really interesting. JP Morgan doesn't just purchase Bitcoin notes, but is also heavily involved with the blockchain fever that has infected banks across the world. The financial firm JP Morgan has applied for a Bitcoin alternative patent with the U.S. Patent Office over 175 times. The company is also working on an Ethereum-based blockchain and also working with Zcash, a cryptocurrency firm, to develop it. With the Ethereum project called Quorum, JP Morgan has its own GitHub repo. And I realize most people don't know what that is. It's a repository of open source code that you can become a member of GitHub for free. They do ask you to donate to further the cause. But basically what it does is it allows developers, whether you're a website developer or some kind of app developer, whatever kind of computer programming you're doing, when you need a task done, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Somebody else has probably already written the code to do a specific function. So you simply go to the GitHub repository and you search for a function, open source, which means it's free. Anybody can use it. You search for that function and it's like, oh, Fred, back in 2012, he wrote the exact code I need to do the exact thing I'm trying to do. And so that saves a person days of writing code and trying to get it to verify, because it's just there for the taking. It's free, so that's a cool thing. But that's part of the internet/software community. The fact that JP Morgan has its own GitHub repository, well, it explains how the permission-based blockchain does not need consensus mechanisms like proof of work and proof of stake. Additionally, former JP Morgan executives are all about the blockchain these days, and even Bitcoin. The veteran commodities trader Daniel Masters joined JP Morgan right after graduating college, and in 2014 announced he was starting a Bitcoin-based hedge fund. Another former JP Morgan mogul, Blythe Masters, started her own blockchain startup, Hyperledger, which is now run by the Linux Foundation. Masters is still heavily involved with the project and has a seat on the governance board. Whether Jamie wants to admit it or not, his firm was trading Bitcoin-based notes after his statements. Further, over the past few years, JP Morgan cannot hide the fact that they are infatuated with blockchain technology, just like the hundreds of other financial institutions, hoping they won't be replaced. So, Jamie, call with your finger in the cookie jar. No, your hand. No, you're in all the way up to your elbow. Yeah, that's right. So, what do you think about that, Mike?
That doesn't surprise me at all.
He masterminds a dip because he knows his words carry weight. So he piggybacks on this China thing and drives it down even further, steps in, buys it up. Now, if there's 3 million that they're able to track and find, how much Bitcoin did his Aunt Ethel buy, right? Who doesn't work for Goldman Sachs. So, how
much information actually was given out there?
But again, Jamie's the bad boy of banking, so he doesn't really care. The operator of Keiko Stock, a popular Korean securities trading app based on the country's #1 smartphone messenger app, Keiko Talk, is launching a cryptocurrency exchange called Upbit. Over 110 cryptocurrencies will be supported initially, including Bitcoin, Ether, and Litecoin. The company says it will be the largest digital currency exchange in South Korea. Now, the digital nature of Bitcoin and all the ones I mentioned and the other 105 that will be on this exchange, they take down the physical borders from country to country. the greenback, you know, in some countries, if you whip out the U.S., well, the U.S. dollar is probably not a good example because everybody wants to have the U.S. dollar. But you know, if you've traveled any at all, as you go from country to country, one of the first things you typically have to do when you arrive in a new country is you have to go find some place that you can exchange your currency. In the Navy, they always had these little currency exchange stands. You know, as soon as you walked off base, because you needed to get some won or some yen or some pesos. If you're in the Philippines, it just depends on where you were. You needed their currency. There were some places you could spend the U.S. dollar. Were you going to say something, Mike?
No, I just in the Air Force we could do it right on base. They had places.
Yeah. Sometimes they would have, and sometimes they would even do it on board the ship. I forget what they call the guy. He wasn't the purser, but anyway, they would exchange the currency for you so that you would get the best rate and not get taken advantage of. I remember when I was in Korea, which is what we're talking about right now. This was back in the late 70s. Their currency was called the yuan, I'm pretty sure that's what it was called. But it was comically, cartoonishly large. You know, these huge. I remember I converted like $100. Just when you go to Korea, everybody wants to buy a leather jacket. That's what they're known for. If you want a tattoo, you hope your ship's going to stop in Australia, which ours did, but I did not get a tattoo. I was afraid of the. I just, you know, I didn't. And so I didn't buy a leather jacket either, but I converted $100 and it wouldn't all fit in my pockets. I had to put some in my socks. I'm serious.
Yeah.
The money was huge. So, launched in 2012, Dunamon is affiliated with Keiko Corp, the company behind Keiko Talk, Korea's #1 smartphone messenger app with over 200 million users worldwide. See, worldwide, again, these physical borders between companies are all coming down because of the digital nature of not only these cryptocurrencies, but, you know, it's been going on to a degree since Al Gore invented the internet. Over 95% of smartphones in South Korea have Keiko Talk installed on them. The company also operates a popular securities trading app called Keiko Stock, a social trading service. Upbit, that's what the name of the new exchange is, will be accessible through the Android and iOS platforms, as well as on desktop computers through its website. The service will also offer coin investment guides with analysis of various altcoins. In addition, the new exchange will also offer internal BitGo wallets to their users, as well as Keiko Pay authentication for added security. Pre-registration for Upbit begins on Monday, September 25th, and pre-registered users will be entered into a drawing to receive one coin from the list of cryptocurrencies which will trade on Upbit, including Bitcoin. Now, they've signed an exclusive agreement with Bittrex. In order to launch Upbit, the company signed an exclusive partnership agreement with the U.S. digital currency exchange Bittrex, which supports over 190 cryptocurrencies according to its website. Initially, Upbit will offer the trading of 110 of the 190 available on Bittrex. They'll have all the big names: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, Litecoin. In comparison, existing exchanges in South Korea trade around 6 to 8 currencies. So it's kind of a big deal for South Korea and for Asia. Currently, users in South Korea wanting to trade most cryptocurrencies have to transfer money to overseas exchanges such as Bittrex, Poloniex, etc. They encounter problems such as time delays, complicated account management, and even language barriers. The opening of Upbit will raise the domestic virtual currency trading environment in South Korea to a world-class level, which will, mean nothing if somebody doesn't put a stop to this Kim Jong-un rascal, however they do it. The CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, has filed its first ever charges against a Bitcoin investment corporation. The company Gelfman Blueprint, owned by Nicholas Gelfman of Brooklyn, New York, has been accused of fraudulent statements regarding Bitcoin investments. I got a feeling this is going to be the first in a long line of such stories. The company apparently had been running a Ponzi scheme from 2014 through 2016, telling investors that it had created a computer algorithm called Jigsaw, which allowed for substantial returns through a commodity fund. In reality, the entire scheme was simply a fraud. The scam apparently bilked more than 80 individuals of sums nearing $600,000. The defendants consistently had reported substantial gains, providing investors with falsified returns, all the while spending the funds personally. Now, if you're going to break the law, if you're going to face going to jail over your activities, be Bernie. I'm not encouraging anyone to do wrong. I think, we should all follow the Big Ten. Don't steal, don't lie, etc., and don't kill. But these guys only maybe they were just not very good at their criminal craft. Because 80 people, 600,000, there were individuals with Bernie who lost far more than 600,000. I'm glad that that's, they only did that much damage. The CFTC's Director of Enforcement said through its work across the Commission, the CFTC has demonstrated its continued commitment to facilitating market-enhancing fintech innovation. Part of that commitment includes acting aggressively and assertively to root out fraud and bad actors in these areas. As alleged, the defendants have preyed on customers interested in virtual currency, promising them the opportunity to invest in Bitcoin, when in reality, they only bought into the defendants' Ponzi scheme. CFTC says we will continue to work hard to identify and remove bad actors from these markets. The CFTC has already shown pro-Bitcoin leanings, which I find interesting, granting a company called LedgerX the right to create a regulated Bitcoin futures market and otherwise remaining aloof from crypto activities. This anti-fraud action is a welcomed one for genuine Bitcoin investors and fund managers alike. Now, LedgerX, CME, and one other company has been given the go-ahead. Now, I looked at LedgerX's website today, and it doesn't look like their last press release, I think, was in July, and something seems to have happened. I don't think they're on track. They were supposed to be up and running and trading by September, according to the last press release, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So we'll take a look under the hood later in the week and see if we can figure out what's going on with that. Yeah, here's the original press release right here, July 9th. In a move that may surprise many in the cryptocurrency world, the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission announced that LedgerX has officially been granted status as a swap execution facility, SEF. This represents a major hurdle in the company's overarching plan of becoming the first federally recognized exchange able to trade Bitcoin options. The final step to this major achievement is the approval from the CFTC as a derivatives clearing organization. Once this has been granted, LedgerX will be the first federally regulated Bitcoin options exchange and clearinghouse to list and clear fully collateralized, physically settled Bitcoin options for the institutional market. Now, I took a brief look at the qualifications to do business over there. This is definitely an institutional-sized operation. This is not for the main street trader. Not yet. Avenues for that, I'm sure, will open. But the company is now among a very rare breed of only 25 financial groups who have SEF status, including Bloomberg and the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Now, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, anyone who trades futures is familiar with the CME. That's where the S&P 500 E-mini is traded, the Dow, the Russell, etc. Some would argue that the decentralized nature of cryptocurrencies demands that government regulatory boards be kept from influencing them. However, their growing popularity has led some to call for greater levels of regulation in order to provide the necessary stability for institutional investors to take part. So, it's just the beginning. One brick after another gets laid in the wall. When it looks like it's all clear sailing, then there's another hitch in the giddy up. A China, a Jamie Dimon, some temporary setback. But I think this is the market that's not going to quit. November is supposedly a big month for the cryptocurrency world. The month of September is wrapping up, and the planned November SegWit 2X BTC1 hard fork is steadily approaching. According to the BTC1 roadmap, a block between 1 megabits and 2 megabits in size will be generated by miners, raising the block size limit at block height 494,784. Over the past few months, core developers and supporters have been strongly against the block size increase, but are also upset that the SegWit 2X working group will not add replay attack protection. Now, I know that this is a lot of information that most people, 99% of the population, has no idea what I just read you means. And I got to tell you, I probably fall into the 5% of the population that knows a little bit. I think you got 1% that understands it all. You probably got 5% that knows a lot, and then you got 5% that knows enough to be dangerous, and then you have the rest of the world. So, is this the beginning of something that we have no idea how it will end? Yes. Is it something that can be stopped? I don't think so. I really don't. And I know that many people, a confused mind always says no, and so a lot of people are still, against the whole idea, and a lot of that comes from not fully understanding it. I'm sure there's some people who fully understand it and still don't think it's a good idea. But whether we think it's a good idea or not, there's not a lot we can, we have, this thing is bigger than all of us. So it's coming. And so based on that, I think what each one of us has to do is we have to make a decision. Are we going to be involved? At what level? Because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going, just like right now, you could look back a year ago and say, man, a year ago, it's hard to even say the numbers. But how will it look 5 years from now, 10 years from now? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So that's why I challenge you to do your own due diligence, to learn whatever it is that you can learn. Or you have to make an agreement with yourself that if you decide not to educate yourself or to be educated, there are a lot of free classes out on the internet. I found a group of Princeton classes that are available for free. So make the decision now whether you're going to educate yourself or not. Not suggesting you should run out and buy anything or invest in anything. Educate yourself so that you can make an educated decision. And if you decide after educating yourself to close the door on it, okay, then you gotta let it stay closed. Otherwise, you will not be able to live with yourself 5 to 10 years from now. Okay? I'm not saying it's going to 500,000. I'm not saying it's going to 1 million, as I saw some projections laid out today. And I'm also not saying it isn't. No one would have ever thought that what we've seen happen would happen. And yet it did. So let's go to John and get his thoughts and ideas on this whole business. John, I saw you there. My phone didn't ring, but I'm guessing you're ready to come on.
Well, you were pretty engaged in
Did you hear the part about Jamie Dimon?
No, what happened?
Okay.
No, I know. I heard a little bit about it.
Well, he came out 2 weeks ago and called Bitcoin a fraud and was really bad mouthing it, and the market took a pretty huge dip based on his statements. John McAfee came on CNBC the next day and basically said, "No, Jamie, you're the fraud." And it was revealed today. Somebody somewhere got a hold of the records as Jamie Dimon was standing up there bad-mouthing Bitcoin and saying that anyone in his employ who invested or traded in Bitcoin would be fired for being stupid. Well, the records are out. His company was actively buying a Bitcoin ETN, exchange traded notes, as opposed to exchange traded fund. They were actively buying the dip, even as he spoke, and the markets were tanking. They were buying. So, I mean, getting caught with his hand in the cookie jar, being involved in fraudulent activities, it's just another day in the life of Jamie Dimon. JP Morgan has paid so many billions of dollars in fines, but I guess they're too big to fail. So that's the story, and I think that's just a showstopper right there. That this guy can stand up and say this, and at the same time, those in his employ are doing the very thing that he says he would fire them for, who's going to prosecute him? What is the crime? Lying? I don't know that you can officially charge somebody with lying unless it causes financial harm or bodily harm. I don't know. Anyway, that was the big news for me today, to see him caught once again.
Just a quick overview of the markets, because there's a lot of things going on today.
Yes,
I can't remember what we said on Friday on the show, but I think we warned of a bit of trouble coming, because by the afternoon even though it was very, very strong, remember we were talking about the strength of the market. The market now is what happened is a few leading indicators gave us a clue that the market was going to go lower, and last night I think there was sort of a head fake, because on this, initially the market rallied. Yep. On this German thing, and then it actually, I saw the high being made, and I thought, should I? It kind of was so strong, I didn't really want to sell it, after, and then I thought, it started going down. I really didn't like the look of what was happening, and if you look at the structure, I don't know if you've got the chart up there, but there was a sort of a kind of a very bearish looking structure developing on the S&P. And it's...
I do have the S&P chart up right now.
Yeah. The danger is, look, I don't know when this tax cut is coming out, this tax cut announcement, but I've got a feeling that if they come out and start announcing it, the markets could reverse upwards very dramatically. And we're kind of set up for that right now. What actually happened was, because this thing was so last night we sold it, and then it goes down during the night. We covered near the lows, we got the rally, and then this morning we sold everything, totaled virtually 100% short. We went long the VIXs right at the bottom, the UVXY actually at 22.55. The VXX around 40.95 was an excellent entry point. We sold the VIX, the UVs around 24, and the VIX up around the same level, somewhere around 42.30 or so. And we bought the LABU. We actually didn't cover on the first bottom, the first one. We covered and reversed on the second one, because I had this sneaky feeling that the market's gonna go back up. Now, obviously, if it rolls over, that'll be much, much worse. But at the moment, it's hanging in, and it sort of looks like, if it starts getting above 58.70 on the Nasdaq, or getting back above 24.95, that would be fairly constructive. So that's you got to be ready, because I think if the tax cut comes out and it's anything close to perfect, or the way we've talked about it on the show, then 15% and all the other goodies, I think the market could absolutely explode from here. So you got to be ready for that. And if that happens, it would be what I would call a booster buy. So it would probably set us up for a very, very strong week, into the end of the month. On the other hand, if we break down today further, that will be a problem, because probably means we're going to have a, much more prolonged, protracted correction, because this is the worst correction we've had in quite some time. But it's very bifurcated sort of thing. I hate using that word actually, but anyway, it's look, you got LABU, you got the drug sector, the pharma sector, which we got back into the LABU somewhere around the 77 area, 77 and a quarter, and it's at 80.5 right now, and it's looking pretty strong. And you've got the oil stocks are absolutely on fire. per our call about it. Remember we talked on the phone with Ed, or on the show with Ed. I mean, I think it's pretty, nobody can say we weren't not just bullish, but almost ragingly bullish on the oil. And we just hit 51.90. I think that's a new recovery high for the oil. We're absolutely screaming higher in gasoline, up to 167 almost, and we're making new recovery highs on the heating oils. Very, very bullish. And the oil. Look at a APC and a Darko Petroleum. They came out and said they want to buy back 10% of their stock, $2.5 billion. The stock is absolutely. I mean, I think it's got way, way much more to go. Incidentally, this morning, Guild, which was a little bit subdued towards the end of last week, kind of got a new lease on life, and really, before this pullback, put on a pretty good show this morning. We actually sold Guild and sells right at the highs. And most of the drug stocks, but they are, ALXN is another one that's coming back. Jazz is actually acting pretty well too. Our favorite stock, Intercept, turned down. It got up to 100. It ran up to 130. We talked about it. We actually sold it, and then ended up going short. Then it went down to 90. It rallied up to 100. And then something happened. I don't know what the heck happened, but it gave us a sell signal up there, and we took it. And next thing you know, it's absolutely tanking. On Friday, got down to $61 or something. Anyway, we got nipped into a buy stop on it, and opened up $4 or $5 this morning. So we sold it and reshorted it, and it's back down again. But I'd be looking to probably buy it here for another bounce, especially if the market reverses higher. Right now the Nasdaq's kind of consolidating. If it breaks out higher from here, it actually could move quite a bit strongly. As we're speaking, the LABU is continuing to go higher and higher, which may be pulling the Nasdaq up with it. The semis, got hit pretty hard today. The other thing is we got the gold. The gold was a very tough buy down here at the bottom because it was jerking around overnight. It sold off right from the open on last night. Went down, retested the 92 area, 1292. Sort of messed around for a long time around 1295, and then suddenly took off this morning. And it's looking very, very good. And the gold stocks also just rallied up pretty strongly, but we sold them a short while ago because they look like they might pull back a bit. And I remember I got real bullish on the grains last week. I mean, they had a fantastic close on Friday, and then now they're down again. I mean, it's really a tough kind of a thing when that happens, because I'm not saying the grains move isn't over. I think it's actually gaining momentum. But the next, you got to be looking to probably rebuy the beans somewhere around 97, 975, 976. Or if it goes a bit lower, maybe then. But the wheat is leading the way. The oats are also acting strong, and the corn. So the setup is kind of bullish for the grains. And if we break 986, we're going to be going back over 1,000 for the first time in a while on the beans. So also the coffee, which had run up to 145. We actually got lucky. We sold it up around 145, 146. It broke down to new lows this morning. It kind of looks like a fairly heavy sort of short or sell. The cocoa, after rallying up to 2040, same sort of thing. It now, both of these things look like they're going to get weaker. And the sugar as well. So it looks like the hurricane-related runs in these things are pretty much done, except for lumber. Lumber actually got up to 394 this morning. I think lumber has actually probably hit its peak as well for now. But just to be careful, you know, if this thing turns back up, 392, 393, you might want to consider going back in, because it is very, very strong lumber in the way it's been acting, and you don't want to come in, you know, sell and then come in and find that it's limit up, in, you know, later this week or something, which could still happen. So.
Now, you commented on soybeans. What was the comment there?
Well, they performed very, very well last week. Closed real strong Friday. Now, ordinarily, you'd think, you know, going into strong weekend after such an advance, you'd expect further follow through, but that didn't happen. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean the beans run is ended. You know, I would have to go down quite a bit to convince me of that. But right now, I think it's probably creating another buying opportunity here if we start to see some upside momentum to redevelop on the beans. You know, especially if it were to rally going into the close. It doesn't look like it's going to do that just yet. It might take a day or two. But in the meantime, the wheat, I mean, look, the wheat had a really big correction. It kind of screamed down to 445. Very, very hard to buy, but our indicators gave us a buy signal down there, and we're back up to 454 right now. I've been doing a lot of stuff on the weekend with my new system, and I got to tell you, it's just acting fantastic. I mean, I can, you know, the gold, the signals that I got off the gold and silver this morning were just fabulous. They really nailed it. And actually, I'm starting to get a bit of a signal on the copper now. If we start heading up to 294, 295, that could mean the copper is on its way higher. Problem with the metals, as we pointed out last week, is the platinum and palladium have been terrible and have been kind of dragging the metals down. I think it's possible the platinum may have turned today. It's got a ways to go, but we actually put a buy signal at 932 this morning, and it ran up to 941. We're still long. The palladium, on the other hand, we sold it up around, I think we sold it up around 920, and it's down to 910 again. So, you know, but I'm not sure if it's going to go much lower. So if it got back into the teens, I think you'd have to go back long the palladium. But it's a very difficult thing to trade just at this point right now. The dollar is stronger. The fact that the gold and the dollar is up today, I think, is really, really good news for the metals. And as long as we don't, you know, as long as today doesn't turn into a sell signal, then I think we're in a reasonably good shape on the metals. Now we're running into a bit of trouble here with the Nasdaq. It seems to have failed on this last effort upwards here. I mean, some stocks are really acting terrible today, like Facebook. All the FANGs are acting very badly. Priceline is a disaster. It's really, really very heavy. And Apple is also down. Well, actually, Apple is acting better than most of the stocks today. And Google is acting a bit better too. So when Apple's acting kind of strongly, you need to be aware of the possibility of a rally, you know, developing, which is what's actually happened off these lows. But you know, if we turn down from here now, and I think we're starting to, it's not going to be good. You know, we're probably going to have another sell-off. So. And the VIXs are starting getting a bit of upside momentum too.
What's gold look like today?
Gold looks good.
Let me bring up a chart of that here. One second. Let me finish this chart up on the soybeans. TMR guys, too much risk. Okay, so go to gold. Okay. Here, let's scrunch this up a little bit and put things in perspective. Okay. The low back on, that was 21st, was Thursday, correct? No, or is that Wednesday? All right, the 24th, Sunday night. The 22nd was Friday, and the 21st was Thursday. Okay, so Thursday we put in a low on gold at 1291.20, and then last night we put in a low 1291.70. So we took out the low, spiked it just a little bit. Now, although there's not a weekly zone here, guys, this is what rejection looks like. The price comes down and touches a point. These are 30-minute candles, and you're left with that huge wick below. Okay, and this is the beginning of a new week. Let me color the right there, the big red candle. All right, so on Globex last night, gold opened with a very bearish candle. In fact, it encapsulated almost the entire range of Friday session. And then in the third half hour last night, that's when we put in this new low, and then we traveled sideways until 10 o'clock this morning, and gold took off like a rocket ship. We went from 1296 area, 1296 up to 1312. That's about a $1,400 per continent. No, it's more than that. We got 12 and 96.
It's $2,000 move on
it's $1,800, 1,800, 2,000, right in that neighborhood. I mean, that looks very bullish, and that happened over a period of 1-2 hours, and put in a high at 1380, and now for the last half hour and the current half hour we're working on, which this candle just started. So we're basically sideways for the last hour and a half. But we had one candle this morning on the S&P, John, that was as big as the entire weekly range up through
Tuesday
I saw it, of last week. Yeah. I mean, that's something to take note of. Now, last week we did not publish zones last week for gold, so all of these zones up here, we're just going to get rid of them because they're not relevant. They're 2 weeks old. Not that they're 2 weeks at least. So we're just going to get those out of the way. And now let's take a look at okay. So from the most recent swing high, which came in, well, we're going to use the last leg down. Okay, the swing high there was 1319.70. So we'll call it 1320, but if we go from this high to this low, there we go. So we've blown through the 62% retracement. And what obstacles do we have? Well, you can see this right here. Okay, these lows has now become the resistance that we're dealing with. So if we can get up above 13, if we can get above 13, 15, if you want to be conservative, go with 16, but there's a pretty good trading opportunity. 13, 16, go from last leg up from that low to this high. A 24% retracement lines right up with the 62% reverse fib, and so a pull back to 1307, 1308. If we pull back into this area and it holds as support, here, I'll make this real interesting. I'll go all the way over here. See that? Okay, that's how markets work. So if we pull back into this area, it holds as support, then we have a trade opportunity from 1310 up to roughly 1313. It's just clear sky. So that is also a $300 per contract opportunity. Now, it'll take some time for that to come together, and there's no guarantee that we will pull back that far. We could pull back deeper. We could pull back to the 50. You can see how these areas, there's confluence in those areas, and that's what you want to watch for. So, all right, well, that covers gold. Any thoughts on crude?
Yeah, on that gold, Dwayne, if you still got that chart there, just a sec. Yeah, look, when you get a kind of a situation where you have that drop, fast, very bad drop, that was it. Yeah. The Fed day, right? And then
well, actually, that was Thursday. No, that was the 20th. You're right. That was Fed day. Yeah.
Okay, and then you go 3 or 4 days sideways like this, and then you go back up. If we get back up above 1320, it's going to look very, very bullish for sure. Yeah. And it could actually, you know, what you got to be really ready for. See, when you get beaten down like this on the gold, it's hard to envisage the next up leg. But since we're, in my view, we're back in the bull market, you know, the surprises are on the upside. And just in the same way as this $2,000 move came out of nowhere today. Actually, if you take the range and do a circle, you know, circular, you know, if you put a circumference, what is that what they call it? The thing you used to have at school for drawing circles. What's that?
Yeah, a protractor.
No, that'll work. If you put a protractor and arc it up, you look at the measured move on that. It could take it up to about 30 or 40. And so what I'm saying is we might have a very, very fast move on the gold back up to the 13, 40 or 50 level.
And that will be extremely bullish. What I was looking for or hoping for was that we would get a pullback when it became obvious that we were getting a retracement. I go, of 13 holes, that'll be great. If we spike it and it holds, that's perfectly fine too. And really, that's kind of what happened. I mean, we battled it out for a couple of days. The bears are sitting here, and the bulls are here, and the war isn't won, but certainly this battle, the bulls have won this battle. The question is now, what I want to do is I want to go to a different chart so that we can look at it. Here, this will work. Yeah, we'll use this chart. GGCZ. Okay. Now let's just look at it from a daily perspective. Alright, here's gold on the daily chart. GGCZ. Okay, on the daily, we're looking all the way back here to July 7th. That was the... you know what? We can do better than that. Now, here's the entire move. Here's the last leg up. So let's do that. Let's just look at the last leg up, which goes back to July 10th. We put in a low at 12:11:10. So if you grab your fib tool, you can just go from that low to this high. We had an unfilled gap from last week, from September. It was a weekend, a Sunday night. We gapped higher on the open, and we actually the following day came back to close it. All right, and now we had this little gap, which has not been filled. Okay, so what we've seen on the last leg up, going back to July 10th, we've seen a pullback from the high that was put in at 1362.40 on September 8th. We overshot the 38% retracement. We almost got to the 50, and this is somewhat typical. We approached that 50% retracement. Buyers know, hedge fund managers, money managers, they know that there is going to be a reaction. Why? It's simply one of those self-fulfilling prophecy type things. On a daily chart, when you get a 50% retracement, whether it's a long move or a short move, there's going to be a reaction. And when they don't quite let it touch the 50, that's bullish, because it's buyers stepping in early. Not, they don't want to miss the move, because this move, as John was talking about, a measured move, if we get a measured move of just this last leg down, that takes us back up to 1360, and we're currently at 1311. We're talking about a 50-point move. That's $5,000. It's a $5,000 per contract move. Of course, you have to have the margins required to hold the position overnight. So whoever your broker is, check with them. Now, we do trade on the overnight session on Globex, but what we don't do is we don't typically hold positions open from one session to the next, because if you do, you're subject to the higher margins. And since many traders are just starting out, their account size is not yet flush enough to handle the overnight margins. So, using the fib extension tool, okay, on this last, now remember, this is just the last leg up. It's not the entire move, but this leg up, there's the, I'm going to put these back in place. I had to move them. There we go. Okay. So a move back, if we get a 50% price extension based on Fibonacci, that will give us a slightly higher high than that 1360. If we got a 100% measured move of the last leg up, that takes us all the way up to 1440. Okay, now that's not going to happen in a day, but it's a possibility. Always embrace the possibilities. At each one of these areas, in particular at this area here, you're going to find probably some relatively strong resistance. But if the market is strong enough to get above it and continue climbing, then this is something that you can set your sights on. Is there any other market that you want to cover today, John?
Just where you're at for a minute. Hang on. Oh, I was just looking at the oil a minute ago. What I wanted to point out about this move on the gold is this is very important. You see the previous. Remember that we had that problem trying to get through 1300 before, and we've come back and tested it
right here.
I mean, really, this market's cleared for liftoff right now. I mean, there's this thing looks like it's going to run up, you know, quite a bit, maybe, and different. You know, this is you had a sort of a lethargic type of a move up from 1220 to 1360. We've had a similar type of correction. The next wave could be much more vertical, although, you know, we could run up to maybe 1380 or 1400, then we could pull back a bit again, maybe back to 1360, and then we could really go big up towards 1500.
I agree with you, and that 1440 number, it would be on the way. So now the Fed has basically promised us one more rate hike before the end of the year. How many more Fed meetings do we have?
Probably two, maybe two.
So this area that I just highlighted, guys, it was resistance on the way up. We had difficulty getting through it. Okay, not just on one occasion. If you need to get that, John, go ahead. Okay. Resistance, resistance, and now, you know, is it going to hold as support? So far, so good. We'll see. Now we're going to go and we're going to look at the entire move. Okay. Which is going to be a little difficult to do, but we'll manage. Going to go from here to here and to here. Okay. There's that 1440 number. Does anyone have any questions on how this market? This is how markets work. This is how it plays out. Whether you're looking at the indices, whether you're looking at energy, precious metals, individual stocks, it is the underlying rhythm of the market. And once you learn to understand this, okay, then it doesn't mean you're going to be profitable on every trade that you take, because sometimes the market will not do the obvious thing. But a high probability trade setup is exactly that. It's a high probability. It is what the herd or the crowd is most likely to do under a given set of circumstances. Now, it's far easier to predict what a crowd is going to do than to predict what any one individual or lone wolf is going to do, given a particular set of circumstances. circumstances. John, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you looking at the oil?
No, but I want to.
Yeah, it's the gasoline is just crazy today. It's going.
Okay, I've got crude oil. We're in the X contract right now, and man, what a move this has been.
Yeah.
Last night, Globex Open is right there. Actually,
this is
going to go ahead.
This is kind of bullish for gold. This oil breaking out like this as well. It's a helping hand. And look, I mean, we've just gone through 52.10. I mean, Ed and I were crowing about this and saying it's going to be different this fall, and it sure is. I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, it's telling you now that the world is in balance and that demand is starting to exceed supply in a pretty big way for this kind of move to be going on. I mean, Brent must be about 57 right now. That's the world oil price. 58.80. Holy mackerel.
Now, when we sent the email out last night, we said to consider buying 50.90.
Yeah.
50.90. So let me mark this up. 50.90. Now, when we hit 51.90, that's $1,000 per contract available. From 50.90 to 51.90, it's $1,000 per contract. That's what the market made available. So let me just mark that. Okay, $1,000 per contract available. And we're continuing to move higher. Now, we've seen $2,000 days in crude before. I mean, it's still got a lot of work to do. We'd need to run up another 80 cents. We'd have to get to 52.90 for it to be a $2,000 day. We have a rule of thumb that says anytime you make $1,000 per contract in any one instrument in one day, take the money and put the mouse away. Okay, because price will revert to the mean. Okay, so it's very bullish right now, but at some point we will get a correction, a pullback. All healthy uptrends or downtrends will have pullbacks along the way. And so let me put this here. Now, what sort of, other than technical, do you have any fundamental reasons behind this move, John?
You mean on the oil?
Uh-huh.
No, it's well, I think the hurricane, the after effects of the hurricane are affecting the gasoline and the heating oil.
Okay.
These refineries are out of, they can't produce. I think that's it's probably telling you these refineries may have been damaged much more than we originally thought. I think that's probably the big deal, and that's affecting the oil as well. Maybe the remember Ed said that a couple of weeks after you're going to get a deficit, after effects of the hurricane. I mean, it was a bit of a, oil was kind of getting knocked down a bit. One would have thought if you were offline for 20 days and you were losing 2 million barrels a day in production, that's 40 million barrels. That's a lot of oil, and we haven't seen that yet. Maybe we're going to see it, tomorrow or Wednesday. All of a sudden we get a big drawdown. That would be, and if we get a big drawdown and we're, minus 10 million or minus 15. I'm not saying it's going to be that, but it could be. then you know, next thing you know, you're going to be $55 before you know it.
What do you think it's going to do to the pump?
You mean that the price of gasoline is going to go higher for sure? You know, it's probably
I mean, it's been a number of years, but we saw $4 a gallon here in
No, I don't think we're
Phoenix.
going to get that sort of extremes. No, you know, 2.5 to 3, the sort of thing. That's probably where it's going to go. But you know, if my predictions come true for 2020, 2019, we're probably going to see $4 again. But you know, because of inflation and everything else, it may not feel as bad this time around, and maybe some of the cars are more efficient these days. So you know, they are. I mean, the cars are getting a little bit more efficient all the time, which does you know, have some impact. You know, because all the old clunkers. I mean, I know we've got 13 years of inventory. I don't pick up the indicators, but it's like there's 13 years of old cars on the road, roughly speaking. That's more than ever before. But you know, the cars today are a lot better than those of the past. I mean, you know, that's why I'm saying about this climate. You know, the pollution and all that. The fact that, you know, how many times in the old days you get behind a stinker, you know, was just smoking. You know, you don't see that. You don't see that too often these days. You know, it's pretty rare actually to get cars doing that. And that's a huge, you know, that's a huge improvement to the climate, you know, to the atmosphere. When you don't have that, and you have cleaner running engines. I think I told you before on this show. I mean, you know, when I go up my roof and look out on the horizon, in the old days, you know, 5 or 10 years ago, you'd see this sort of yellow glow on the horizon. I don't see that anymore. It's clear. It's clear as it's remarkable. That's why I'm so, you know, pro. You know, I'm not a climate change, because I think that a lot of the stuff is already they've made a lot of improvements already, and you know, we may, as some of these climate guys are saying, you know, we may be in a year or two, if we really get into an ice age of sorts. I mean, a friend of mine just was clearing away snow 2 days ago in Reno, and in California. You know, it's been snowing. It's the first snows. I don't think it's ever snowed this early before.
They get quite a bit of snow up in that area, correct?
Right. Yeah. Well, he had 90 inches of snow in the last year. And I was watching an interview with the guy from Squaw Valley, you know, the owner there, and he said that for 2 years now, the snow's never gone away. It's sort of packed, you know. It's like, I mean, there may not be ice up in Iceland or in Greenland, but this guy was saying there's like 2 years of pack ice, sort of 8 feet thick, in Squaw Valley. He's never seen anything like it. And this guy, they had 90 inches of snow in Reno, or in Incline Village, you know.
And San Francisco, by comparison, had the highest temperatures in recorded history this past summer.
Well, that may be, you know, maybe China's having some sort of impact on that, you know, because I think we're getting a lot of stuff that comes from China across the Pacific. Possibly had something to do with that. But the one thing is, you know, I guess one of the reasons why we are getting these hurricanes is because the seawater is warmer, and that's not necessarily anything to do with climate change, you know. I mean, you know, these currents, some weird things go on with these currents. You know, water comes from the Antarctic all the way up through the Atlantic, and can influence the Gulf Stream when it gets too warm in the north. You know, you can get this cold water that comes up under sea, and that can make Europe have a really cold winter, which is what's been going on the last couple of years.
So what's your thought on the whole global warming thing? I mean,
look, my take is more stuff comes out of volcanoes every day than all of humanity produces, and certainly when you factor it in, I mean, for millions of years before humans were even around, volcanoes were erupting and spewing stuff into the atmosphere, and the world has a way of washing this stuff out through rainfall and cleaning the atmosphere through rainfall. And the sea has a way of cleaning itself, even though there's an awful lot of garbage thrown into the sea. It's sort of horrifying, the sea.
When I joined the Navy and my first time out to sea, when it came time to take out the garbage, I was absolutely blown away that the guy says, "Follow me to the fantail," and I'm like, "Oh, we must have a storage place for this," and he just threw the bags over the back of the ship, and I'm like, "Really?
Yeah,
we can do that?" I mean,
that used to happen. So that was kind of routine, back in those days.
Oh, that's what we did every day. Every time we went, because I mean, we're out to sea for 90 days. You create an awful lot of garbage. Do they not do that anymore?
Yeah. No, it's pretty strict these days. They have these special compactors and things where they store the garbage in the ship, and and you can get fined, if you're caught. And these cruise ships have to be very careful because passengers have reported, people throwing garbage off the cruise ships and stuff. So.
Let's see what else you have in headlines today. You already talked about Trump.
Well, I haven't really, but I think the latest thing is North Korea says they have the right to shoot down. I'd say go ahead, make our day. Take a shot at doing that, and I think you're.
I mean, he said even if you're not in our airspace, it's like if you come near us, if you do a flyby like you did the other day, we reserve the right to shoot you out of the air. So
yeah, let them take a shot at it and find out what happens. They'll regret it pretty quick, and I think it'll be the end of the problem. And I think the end of the problem's coming soon. As a matter of fact, I'm watching CNN. I was up all night, and I'm watching CNN, and this guy called Ben Wiedemann comes on. And what really annoys me about these CNN, it's all opinion. Instead of reporting the news, they keep, making their own opinions. I wish Trump would stop talking about all this fire and fury. What people don't realize is since Trump upped the ante, what has he achieved? China look at Russia and China. They've gotten the stuff at the UN that's never happened before. 15 to 0 for sanctions. Now China's come out and frozen all the banks, and they've cut the oil off. I mean, they're pretty much strangling the country right now. They're doing the same as what we did to Iran, and what we did to Iran. If Obama hadn't screwed up, in not getting a better deal, it would have, and I think they probably took the sanctions off too early. They should have kept the pressure on further. They could have got a much better outcome. But I think all this stuff going on with this kneeling and everything, what it really is half the country are still trying to get over the fact that they don't have Obama there anymore. This sort of Obama experiment. And the other half is saying, never again, never are we going to give any con man like Obama the chance to run the country into the ground. And that's really the problem today, the two sides, in this divided country, because it's going to take the Obamaites a long time to get over, and the Hillaryites, it's going to take them a long time to get over this thing. But hopefully, if we get this tax cut and everything else, they won't. The pain will go away in time as the economy improves, and people have less time on their hands. and they're busier making money and improving their lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think look, Trump, he sort of hits the wrong button sometimes, but he's.
What was this
he's
big
got a
sports
point.
thing? I'm not a real sports guy. I saw it on the news last night, and I saw it, but I didn't take the time to even slow down and read the article. What's going on between Trump and
what
the NFL?
happened was it started at this speech in Alabama. He sort of said if somebody kneels for the flag, they should be sort of thrown off the pitch, or fired. And he used the SOB, which didn't go down too well. It's probably the wrong expression, but it kind of created a firestorm, and it's sort of turned into sort of a big deal, but. As James Woods pointed out, I was watching his Twitter, and he says, there's no laws. We're all treated equally under the law, right? So, it's unfortunate that some black, that there is a higher percentage of black people who are killed by the police for one reason or another. They should be trying to address that. I think the police, to be, sometimes overreact. And they're very trigger happy. And look, I mean, a lot of these shootings that go on, these guys never use their gun in their lives. They a lot of times. So it's not. You can't call them trigger happy. It's just that circumstances are created where this stuff happens, and it's regrettable. But they certainly need to. I'm sure they're trying to address it as it is. But it is a bit of a problem,
Okay.
But I think that look, you never know. It might come to. I think if Trump maybe has some kind of a meeting with some of these guys and works things out, or at least tries to, I think it'll be a win for him. So, I mean, he's trying pretty hard, but you're not really seeing. You've got Ben Carson in there, supposedly trying to, improve the inner cities, but there's not much going on. There's been no reporting about it. There's been no sort of evidence of that going on, and I think that's probably a missed opportunity. If they are doing things, they should be crowing about it, so that people know that something's happening.
What about the new travel ban? Do you think that's going to fly?
I thought that was pretty good. I thought that what's good about the travel ban is it's not all Muslim countries anymore, so they kind of stumped that argument. Now it's countries that are problematical, like Venezuela and Korea, and they actually took one off the list. Actually, they took one off the list, Sudan, and guess what nationality the fellow who shot the people in the church was yesterday is a Sudanese. So you can't win,
What was his supposed motivation, and where did that happen again?
In Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Somewhere in Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay. How does a Sudanese guy end up in Tennessee? I'm sure there's there's 1,000 stories in the Naked City, but
yeah.
This guy, Anthony Weiner, had his day in court. He pleaded guilty to one count of transferring obscene material to a minor, admitting he exchanged lewd text with a 15-year-old girl. He started to cry after the sentence was read by Judge Denise Cote in New York City. In a statement he read in court on Monday, Weiner said he was a very sick man for a very long time and called his own crime rock bottom. He must surrender to prison officials by November 6th. Weiner resigned from Congress in 2011 after posting a sexually explicit photo to Twitter. After first saying he was hacked, he admitted to messaging several women and sharing explicit photos. Now, was it not his wife's laptop where a lot of these Hillary emails were discovered?
Correct, yeah. Yeah.
Weeder's married to the longtime Hillary Clinton aide, Huma Abedin, who filed for divorce earlier this year. The two have a 5-year-old son. Abedin was absent from court on Monday. His communication with the 15-year-old girl led authorities to seize his computer days before the presidential election. The FBI director at the time, James Comey, announced he was renewing an investigation into Clinton's emails based on emails found on Weiner's computer. Clinton has said she believes the late announcement cost her the presidency. So, now, he got in trouble for this once before. He was trying to attempt a political comeback in 2013 with a bid to become the mayor of New York City, but that was derailed after another woman came forward to reveal more explicit messages that Weiner sent after resigning from Congress. So his sentence was, no sentence is a good sentence, but I think he had 21 months. That's what it turned out to be. Anything else you want to cover today? Pete from the chat room says 990 people shot in 2015, 948 people were male, 494 were white, 258 were black in 2015. Nine 990 people. So these are all types of crimes, hate crimes, drug deals gone bad. Is that what these statistics embrace, Pete? Those are shootings by on-duty police officers. Oh. Now, some guy in this church in Tennessee was armed and did shoot the gunman. Was he a police officer? $990 people were shot by an on-duty police officer in 2015. Not sure. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, let's walk through this one more time. This is really important. On Crude, Sunday night Globex open. The alert that was emailed out to subscribers last night said to consider being long at 50.90. Okay. We've run up well over $1,000 per contract so far. The problem is with the 30-minute chart, your risk is $600. We don't like to risk more than $300 on a Concierge Trade Alert. Because the Concierge Trade Alerts are discretionary trading, that $300 number is more of a guideline than a hard and fast rule, okay? But I think it's a pretty good guideline. And so the way we work it is if it doesn't appear on the 30-minute chart, we will take a look at the 5-minute, and when we do that, our $600 risk This is same chart, same day. Okay. We're able to reduce that risk to exactly $300. So when the 30-minute chart does not provide acceptable risk, check the 5-minute chart and then also the range chart that we use in the live room daily. If no suitable entry is found, walk away. Just walk away. That's the benefit of having so many trade opportunities over the course of a day. When you open the email, you're looking at 8 markets, 2 trades per market. That's 16 potential triggers for that trading session. Because important prices and important areas are almost always tested. And because some days we have two-sided trading action, those 16 potential triggers on any given day may present you with 20 to 50 actual triggers. The alerts are good from the time they arrive in your inbox until the next set follows the following evening. I do try to get them out before 9 p.m. Eastern each night. I've been doing pretty good of late. I think there was one night that I was probably an hour to an hour and a half late getting them out. But again, once they hit your inbox, they're valid until the next set arrives the following night. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands the difference between a 5-minute chart, same commodity, crude oil, X contract. We're simply looking for, based upon the methodology that goes with the Concierge Trade Alerts, where the spot is. Okay, we want the chart to tell us where to put our stop. I love it when the low risk opportunity is presented on a 30-minute, but I'll accept the 5-minute and I'll accept the 4-tick range chart. Okay. Okay, this chart simply has the dynamic support and resistance dots loaded on it for some reason, but we're going to take it down to a 4-tick range and we're going to see what that presents us with. Okay, we get on the right contract, GCLX. Okay. $50.90. Alright. Let's zoom in and take it up close. Look at that. On the 4-tick range, got back below the trigger right here. Swing low was 50.89, went exactly one tick below the trigger. Is that acceptable? Can you trade that? Yeah, you can. Probably a question I get asked the most is, does it need to close back below the trigger? That is an area where you, again, discretionary trading. I can offer you guidelines, but ultimately you will create your own hard and fast rule. For instance, if you're trading with a larger sized account, where I insert the $300 figure, you might choose to insert $400, or you might choose to insert $200. Okay. In other words, you're not going to risk more than $200 per contract. Out of the potential 20 to 40, even 50 triggers that present themselves on a daily basis, you can, by the writing of your own rules, seek to make that the highest probability trade that you know how. Okay? And with the CFRN indicators, you may add in rules such as, I need both the CFMA1 and the cycle indicator on a long trade to be blue and climbing, or I need them to be both blue and climbing, and I want the cycle above the 50-yard line. Okay. Now, whereas we had a pronounced swing low at 50.60 on the 5-minute, that same, see, is that a swing low? It is. Is that a swing low? It is. Is that a swing low? It is. The $300 line in the sand is at 50.60. Okay. So that's 50.60, that's 50.90. Okay. So, did we get a close? I'm sorry, this is the trigger up here. This is just the $300 line in the sand. Okay, did we get a close back below the trigger? No. No, we did not. Do we need a close back below the trigger? No, we do not. Because if you're going to put a swing, if you're going to put your stop below a swing low, that's got to be here, and that exceeds the $300 threshold. Okay, but we found our answer on the 5-minute chart right there. Leg, retrace, leg. Okay. All right. There's a question in the chat box recording that, requesting that information, and so hopefully I was able to explain that for you properly. Would you be so kind and mark hypothetical trailing stop levels? For this move here, there's a couple different things you can do. You can trail your stop, okay, by whatever you deem to be acceptable risk. If you're risking $300 initially, you can trail. If you've read Trading in the Zone, Mark Douglas teaches that when you accept the risk on a trade, that you don't reduce that risk, you reduce the number of contracts. Now this can only apply to those that are trading multiple contracts. So let's say you're trading 3 contracts, okay? At whatever point you've predetermined you're going to take profit on your first contract, you do. Your risk stays here. And at what point will you take profit on your second contract? And then how tightly will you trail on the third contract? Because you always want to let the market take you out. There's no reason to arbitrarily just jump out of the market. If you're up against a known resistance area or up against a weekly trading zone, then you just tighten up your stop to the point where, well, gosh, it's inevitable I'm going to get stopped out. Okay, maybe you will, but leave the door open in case you don't. Now, if you're looking at a 5-minute chart, you know, as price, if you get a leg and a small retracement and a leg, you could put a stop behind that swing low. And then when you get the next swing low, and then the next one, and then the next one, which is the same as this one, and again under that one. Yeah. If you're trading one contract, you don't have the luxury of shedding contracts on the way up. Okay. You can also use the indicator set. Okay, now you can trail behind, if you're gonna, on a 5-minute, you could trail behind the BBC. You don't want to be too tight against the BBC for this very reason right here. Okay, now if you were trailing the BBC, if you got taken out here, Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you still had, I don't know, $300 per contract in that. But sometimes you'll spike the BBC, and then the next candle puts you right back on the other side. Okay. Now, let's go back to the 30-minute. And on this one, because we're dealing with a higher time frame, trailing behind, and this is a 30-minute chart, trailing behind the BBC, sometimes that could actually, like right now, if you were trailing way back here, that would be more than your initial risk on the trade. However, you're in profit at that point. Okay? Now, the other rule of thumb says if you're going to use the indicator set to trail this type of a move, to trail your stop, once the step line, this is a long trade, so once the step line is on the south side of the CFMA1, the first red candle that closes below the step line, and the step line is on the south side of the CFMA1 on a long trade, that's where you would exit your trade. Just like right now, if this candle that we're working on were to come down and close the half hour below the step line right there, that's where you would take your exit. So far, there has not been an exit given using the indicator on a 30-minute chart. Now, the 30-minute chart is also, that's a discretionary thing. You can use an hourly chart, you can use a 15-minute chart, you can use a 10-minute chart, a volume chart, some other type of range chart. The chart that speaks to you is the one that you should use. I find that the 30-minute speaks to me. Okay, and I'm kind of a flow with it, and it works well for me. Okay, what I don't recommend is that don't constantly be flip-flopping. Let something be your cornerstone, like for me is the 30-minute, and then you have a method to your madness. I go 30-minute, 5-minute range chart, and if one of those does not give me a clear and obvious entry that lines up with what I've decided is going to be my maximum risk in the trade, I don't then go look at a 10-minute or a 12-minute or an 18-minute. I just don't, because I would rather wait for a trade to come along, whether it's gold or the S&P or crude or whatever it is that fits the parameters that I've set for my trade. Sort of like when you're asking for advice. If you ask enough people what their opinion is on any subject, you will eventually find someone whose opinion agrees with yours. And you go, I knew it. Now, 9 people have told you something entirely different, but the 10th guy he agrees with you, and you're like, see, I knew it. So with trading, have your, even though it's discretionary trading, and even though I give you guidelines, you should have hard and fast rules, but you should develop them. Okay? And again, I think it's very important that everyone learn rules-based trading before they wander into the area of discretionary trading. Okay? All right, let's get through the rest of these real quick. Yes, if you now when you say a 4-tick range chart, in other words, you're an 8-tick risk for this type of trading. No, that won't work. If you're only willing to risk 8 ticks, just stick to the rules-based trading in the live training room. Okay. This is a bigger picture type of trade. Okay. You got it. Okay. All right. I'm glad I was able to answer your question. Okay, let's run through these real quick. The hour has grown quite late. Let's go back. S&P. Okay, on the S&P, 2504. Okay, this is where the market opened. Would you have taken this trade? Well, you had it on a 30-minute. You have a swing low right here, and so yeah, quite possibly. And if you did, you possibly got stopped out for 4 points, which equates to about $200. Okay. Then this was two-sided action. Consider selling 24.91. Well, on the 30-minute chart, on the first move down, stops way up here. It's too much risk. Okay, so price goes through the trigger. It does make 6 points available. It then gets back above the trigger, and on the 30-minute chart, it makes 5 points available with $125 risk per contract. It then gets back above the trigger, and with that same stop, it is now dropped to a low of 88.25. So about 91 to 88, 2.75. Okay, the Dow. We really do got to move quick. Let me show you real quick. Anybody wants to take a screenshot, grab it real quick here. Okay. There you go. Little thing up at the top, looks like a camera, is a camera. Snap it. And it will save it to your desktop. Okay. Alright, so on the Dow, we were looking to sell 22,275. Okay, coming into this, that was the most recent swing high. 22,350. Okay. $22,275. All right. At $5 a point. If you're going to go with the $300, that's 60 points. From 22,275 up to 22,350, that's 75 points. Okay, so that exceeds the $300 threshold. We trigger. We come back. If we put our stop right here, okay, it triggers. We're well inside of the parameters, from 75 up to 305. You got about 30 points at $5 a point, 150 point risk. But the trade goes nowhere and you get stopped out. Puts in a new swing high. Your risk there is, we'll call it 330. Okay. So we got 55 points of risk. So that's under the $300 threshold. And we drop to 22174. So we'll call it 175. So this is a $100 move. Or $500 per contract available. Okay. We never get out at the swing high or swing low because we do trail our stop. Too much risk on the first trigger. On the second trigger, you're looking at about a $200 stop out. And on the third trigger, the market made $500 per contract available. Keeping in mind, you'll never get out at the swing high or swing low. Okay? All right, soybeans, too much risk on the first move. On the second move, $112.50 per contract. That's what the chart tells you. That's where the chart tells you to put your stop loss. We then proceed to drop $400 per contract. Okay? And based on how tightly you're trailing your stop, you would either be out on this pullback or still in the trade. Bonds. Okay. Wanted to buy 154.24. Okay. At 31.25 per tick. At 31.25 per tick, what can you have? 9 ticks risk. And this is definitely more than. So, no trade there. The sell side on bonds was 153.13. Again, on a 30-minute chart, too much risk. I'll let you walk it down and do the 5-minute. Okay. What else? We covered gold. Well, we did a lot of work on gold, but we never actually looked at the trade alert, did we? Buy 1302. And it took us up to a high of 13.60. $1,000 per contract. However, where your stop has to be. Again, you'd have to drill down to 5-minute 4-tick range to see if you can find an acceptable risk for the trade. So 1298. Right there. Couple of opportunities to sell 1298. $12.98, okay. And if you put your stop up at 1300, it's $200 risk on the trade, and it dropped to $12.94 and $12.98, $12.94. So that's a $400 per contract move with $200 of risk on the short side. Now, you can do it on a 30-minute chart. On the short side, on the long side, you've got to go look at a 5-minute or the range chart or whatever charts you've predetermined that you're most comfortable with, and then just stick with those. Because if you don't find it there, wait for the next trade. Wait for the next trigger. Okay? All right. Crude. Did we do crude? Yes. We did the crude. 5090. And it's the only one we haven't done is the Russell. Okay. On the Russell. By 1454. Right there, 1454, and it ran up to 56.50. That's $125 per contract. Okay, and your stop would need to be, if you're going to get it at 54 on a 30-minute chart, you need to be down around 46. So I think you're starting to get the picture. On the sell side for the Russell, 47. And again, on your 30-minute chart, looks like there's going to be too much risk. All right. When you open the email, there's 8 markets, 2 trades, that's 16 potential triggers. Over the course of the session, you'll probably see 20 to 40, some days, depending on how active the market is, as many as 50 triggers. So be as selective as you want to be. But no matter how selective you are, you're still going to get stopped out on some trades. Okay, that's just part of trading. Always has been, always will be.
The people who stand in the 90% line are the people who could never. One of the reasons they stand in the 90% line is because they could never accept the fact that getting stopped out was part of the business. Didn't mean they were a failure, didn't mean they didn't know how to trade. It just means they didn't know how to embrace the fact that you will get stopped out. And how you handle that side of the equation really determines, whether you're going to have a career as a trader or not. All right, guys. Again, the hour's late. I got to go. We've covered everything of importance that we needed to cover today. And so we're going to leave it there. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.